Good morning, everybody. I am posting this video to go over TimTim's video on Mark Grayson on what I agree and what I don't agree with. So the first part isn't exactly like the debunk part, it's just like where he honestly thinks Invincible Skills and what he has to show for that.
Now, off the bat, the Invincible high tiers like Mark, Allen, Omni-Man, Thrag, etc. are planetary and above planetary. We know this based off the character that tends to get ignored by a lot of people, that character being Tech Jacket.
To be fair, nobody gives two shits about Tech Jacket, due to the fact that he's like always getting beat up by like random Viltrumites in the background. And this is consistent because he was losing to Mark's improved good Viltrumites who were half Thrax and half Viltrumites, so they were significantly weaker than the pure-blooded Viltrumites. I'm gonna say this, Mark destroying a planet would not cap him at like Continental or something. This would just be destructive capacity, not attack potency. That's the first point. The second point is that people who didn't read the comic just tend to leave out that Space Racer used his ray gun to essentially help destroying the planet, which the Viltrum planet withstood, and this same blaster is stated to like one-shot regular stars. So at a bare minimum, this feat should like be star level. So yes, at the very bare minimum, Mark should be star level.
Universal level because it is stated that he's capable of destroying his native universe, which to some degree is true. Omnipotus did destroy his native universe, however, there is deep underlying context on why that occurred. The first overall factor that we have to take into account is that Omnipotus never fights anyone at full power. Never when he absorbed a full amount of energy, it's always when he is weakened. The first time we see Omnipotus, he's completely depowered.
It was never stated that he was depowered. In fact, this was like after he destroyed his old universe by like absorbing it and claiming it as his own power, which is why he brings up his quote-unquote unlimited power to the superheroes.
The second time we see Omnipotus, it's because he's been on our Earth draining it for a little while.
A little while is kind of vague, considering that he was waiting for the perfect time to strike, which is like really important once I explain it a little bit. If Omnipotus had his energy when he once fought the Guardians the first time and then lost, then he lost his energy, then came back to our Earth for the perfect time to strike, then got his energy back, and then beat up the Guardians, that would have logically mean he's gotten stronger than before. So that's my contention on why he was not weakened when he fought dinosaurs and Invincible and all that.
The reason why both of these factors are important is because Omnipotus' strength is defined by how much energy he's absorbed and has obtained during the time. The first time we see Omnipotus, it's stated he's completely drained, and then the second time he's only absorbed a little bit of energy from our Earth. He fights Mark. We cannot scale Mark to these higher end levels of potential that Omnipotus is stated to have.
Okay, if you're a lazy turd and you just want a quick resume on Mark above Omnipotus instead of like watching this, then here's Mark blatantly being stated to be above the entire multiverse, which includes Omnipotus. Even if you don't want to say this crossover is quote-unquote canon, it would still be to like Robert Kirkman's creations, which includes Omnipotus and Mark.
My main issue with crossovers in Invincible is if we apply the crossovers, we now can see that the statement that Space Rider is star level or capable of destroying stars and planets would be wrong in terms of capitalizing what it's truly capable of.
Not really, since the statement itself is coming from Omni-Man with his experience with the Space Racer and their fight, so we can assume his claim is valid.
We also now have to claim that Thaddeus, because stabilized.
We can't argue this as a knowledge claim because beforehand Thaddeus stated it would have taken like 5 people to destroy the planet instead of 3. 8 people including Alan the alien and Tech Jacket, but they did not need these many people. They only needed 3, which makes Thaddeus an unreliable source.
So let's cover and explain these crossovers in detail, shall we? People would love to argue for some reason on TikTok that Omni-Man is Galaxy level because he fought Supreme. Now there is a bit of controversy on whether or not the Supreme crossover is canon.
Here is a quick Robert Kirkman statement stating that the crossover is canon.
Now, let's be honest with ourselves. Just because something is stated as canon does not mean something is consistent to the powers. Now, let's also take into account people are arguing only off of the Supreme crossover and none of the other crossovers, but when you get confirmation on the Supreme crossover being canon, you're also getting confirmation on all other crossovers. So now, your argument that Omni-Man is Galaxy level off of Fighting Supreme is just 100% incorrect and contradictory based on the evidence people like to use for the Supreme thing. Because based off these interviews and statements, we're jumping to even higher conclusions. Because every time Robert Kirkman says the image heroes are canon to, Invincible, Savage Dragon is at the core of that. Now, let's point out, if Savage Dragon is canon to Invincible, now we have to argue that Spawn is canon to Invincible. Which is pretty consistent for Spawn and Savage Dragon, as Eric Larson's direct involvement in the Spawn narrative and input his specific version of God and Satan within the Spawn narrative. As it was both Eric Larson, creator of Savage Dragon, and Tom McFarlane, creator of Spawn, who wrote the script for the Satan Saga Wars. Now, Witchblade and Darkness are in these crossovers I'm going to speak of soon. However, we do know that the Witchblade and Darkness universe isn't actually canonical to Savage Dragon and Spawn's universe because the origin of their universe is the Artifacts. The origin of the Spawn and Savage Dragon universe is God, Satan, and I forget their name, but the other God tier being that's above those two. But for the sake of me proving why these crossovers don't make sense for this canon, let's say that Witchblade and Darkness are actually canonical in the same universe. In Savage Dragon 141, all of the main core image heroes fight this character named Solar. It's Spawn, Witchblade, Savage Dragon, and Invincible. We don't need to talk about Shadow Hawk, he's completely irrelevant. In this comic, Solar Man is completely destroying Witchblade and Spawn. Witchblade being like a Universal Plus character at the time, and Spawn being multiversal. As this comic came out in the late 2000s, so this should be Prime Spawn and Prime Witchblade. In fact, Solar Man completely takes energy attacks from Spawn. And somehow, Invincible is capable of knocking him off of his feet. Invincible also takes like a full-fledged punch from Solar Man after Solar Man completely destroyed Savage Dragon. Which is pretty insane because Savage Dragon is the character who kills Solar Man later on in this comic. Savage Dragon also has pretty consistent and also lists the Spawn, so he should still use Spawn.
Now here you claim you have read this book, but in Savage Dragon issue 140, the issue prior to that battle, we see Spawn for the first time and he states that he's weak to the point he can barely stand on his feet. And right after that, Solar Man comes and the battle starts. So now you know he was heavily weakened, and because you didn't read the book. Now let's get to Solar Man. This dude has nothing impressive besides his energy absorption, and in terms of speed, he failed to tag a weakened Spawn.
Ironic how you failed to point out that Spawn teleported away, and the dude Solar Man was paying attention to other people when this was all occurring. And for saying he has nothing impressive, here's him beating the brakes off of Savage Dragon, who, while butt naked, can beat the brakes off Spawn.
Twice. He failed to tag him twice. Also, the reason he used this fight to highball Mark is because he hit and damaged Solar Man. Mark hits Solar Man 3 times, and the only time he remotely staggered or damaged him is when all 4 of them attacked Solar Man at the same time. So you can't scale this shit in the slightest.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The first scan shows him completely knocking him back, and even if you don't want to use that, Newton's third law suggests that your attack potency would be equal to your durability. So Mark taking attacks from Solar Man would just as equally scale to his attack potency.
Also, I'm not going over the facts why this isn't the main Albert or a spawn, because this shit is already debunked, so that's unnecessary.
And I showed a scan beforehand proving the crossovers are canon, but the funniest part is that Spawn was never weakened. He was just exhausted, and he was able to catch his breath when the others were fighting for him. Before we go ranting on a video trying to make a point, let's actually make sure we know about the point we're talking about so we just don't look ridiculous making the video. I don't know what else to tell you guys. This was extremely long to make, and I hope to never do that again. So Earthbounder is out.